We got a new video that's come out. There's more disturbing evidence and information coming out in the George Floyd death, murder, lynching, whatever you want to call it. And this video involves Officer Tao. This is the Asian officer, if you recall. I imagine everyone's seen the video by now. That's standing in front of the three officers while innocent bystanders are screaming at him, check his pulse, check his pulse. And you have Officer Tao, who, by the way, is very close friends to Officer Chauvin. In fact, Chauvin's now ex-wife, I believe, is Tao's sister. So I want you to listen to this audio, and then you'll understand maybe why people were so upset. This is Officer Tao, people yelling at him to check George Floyd's pulse. Have a listen to this.
You think that's okay? Check his pulse.
Check his right.
Tao, check his pulse. Check. The man ain't moved yet, bro. The man ain't moved yet, bro.
Okay. Where? Minneapolis.
Okay. Bro, you're a bum, bro. You're a bum, bro. You're
Check
definitely a
right
bum,
now.
bro.
Tell me what it is. Tell me what his pulse is right now.
Check the pulse. Bro, he has not moved not one time.
Okay, let me be very clear. The people that are on the side there that are saying check his pulse are absolutely right. The two officers that I believe deserve to go to jail for a very long time, obviously it's Derek Chauvin, the guy who had the knee over George Floyd, and he's going to go to jail for a while. He's going to be convicted. Officer Tao better be convicted with something. He is an accessory. As far as those other two officers, not sure about that. 3 days on the job, 4 days on the job. You got a guy next to you with 20 years on the job saying, no, we're not going to turn him over. So that's the first part of this that I want to discuss, and I think it's pretty clear, cut, and dry there. Another part of this that is extremely disturbing is the fact that Officer Chauvin could receive $1.5 million in pension even if he's convicted of murder. We want to talk about laws that need to change. Well, how about this? Try this one on for size. How about if you're a police officer and you lynch somebody, maybe we shouldn't give you your pension. What idiot politicians put that in place? You know what? We don't care if somebody kills an African-American and murders an African-American on the job. We'll still give him his pension. Make sure his family is taken care of. If you agree with this, you are a disgusting human being. Let me just start there. You are just scum of the earth. Unless you are David Duke, okay, or a member of the Klan. I guess there are members of the Klan out there, like the idiot in Virginia who decided to plow down a group of protesters. Thankfully, he wasn't successful in that. I would imagine if you're a Klan member, you might be okay with Derek Chauvin receiving a pension. But anybody else? You want to talk about laws? This is the first law that should change. If you are fired as a police officer for wrongdoing, I don't care if it's murder, anything, you don't get your pension. You lose it, period. And let's save that pension money for the good officers out there. Let's pay them a little more money, the good ones out there that are doing their job. And here's another part of this story that is so disturbing to me, and we'll take some phone calls at 702-257-5396. People want to say, well, there's a few bad cops out there, right? A few bad apples. Okay. I agree with that sentiment for the most part. I think the majority of police officers are good cops. But let's talk about Minneapolis for a second. When I say the majority of cops are good cops, I'm talking about the entire country. I ain't talking about Minneapolis, and I will explain why. Because I don't think the majority of cops in Minneapolis are good cops, and I'll explain why right now. The facts back up my opinion. Out of 800 police officers, 800, only 14 Minneapolis police officers have wholeheartedly condemned in a letter Officer Chauvin's behavior. Only 14. So I am going to go on the record right now and say this. There are 786 officers within the Minneapolis Police Department who are blatant cowards. They are cowards, and they are a disgrace to the men and the brave men and women in uniform throughout the country. Explain to me their reasoning. Why they wouldn't, and again, we're not talking even about the three other officers. We're just talking about Chauvin. Explain to me how only 14 police officers out of 800 have condemned in a letter of Chauvin's behavior. There is no excuse for that. Again, I say it again. The majority of cops are good cops. They're good people. Not Minneapolis. They are a bunch of cowards at that police department. When you look at the video and everything that has transpired, there's not one logical human being, black, white, whatever the color of your skin is, that would agree that Chauvin's actions were horrible, terrible, murder. And only 14 officers in your department of 800 are willing to admit that? What do you guys think about that? Let me open up the phone lines. What do you think about the fact that out of 800 cops at the Minneapolis Police Department, only 14 have admitted that Chauvin's actions were wholeheartedly wrong? Now, listen, in the first hour, I defended the police. We all did here. This Rashard Brooks situation, the police officers were in the right, and I hate the way they're being treated in Atlanta right now. I hate the fact that a man who steals a taser, points at an officer, and shoots. I hate the fact that he's being labeled a victim. It's wrong. He's no victim. But I'm going to tell you something. Those 786 officers in Minneapolis are a disgrace, and they're cowards. And I would love to talk to one of them and ask them, why have you not condemned Officer Chauvin? Everything that's going on in the country right now, a part of it is Officer Chauvin's fault. And you can't even write down in a letter with your name on it and say, yes, I condemn Chauvin's behavior? What a disgrace. The police chief is condemning it. Your own police chief is condemning it. It's why they were fired within 24 hours, and it's why Chauvin is sitting in a jumpsuit in a jail cell by himself right now. Number to call, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's start off with Larry. Larry, you're first up in the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Larry?
Good morning, gentlemen. Well, Brian, I'm on pace with you with everything today except for one thing, and that's with the Seattle thing going on there. So I'm taking this off of. I know you like to be factually accurate, so I'll go with this. The FBI defines domestic terrorism as violent criminal acts committed by individuals and/or groups to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences such as those of a political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature.
All right, so what happened there that was violent?
Well, besides the violence, and now they are guarding their borders.
What
right?
What did they do that was violent?
There has been some violence, Brian.
Right.
I just got to see.
I want to ask the caller. Caller, we just had a reporter on who's been there 3 times. She said she hasn't seen any violence. So now I'm asking you. Maybe you know something that the reporter doesn't know. I ask you again. What have they done that was violent?
They've taken over a neighborhood.
That's not a violent crime. That's not. No.
You could say. You could say that the way that they got the police precinct was violent because they threatened to burn down a police precinct, and that's how they were able to get it abandoned.
You guys,
that is a terroristic threat.
Anybody who enters it illegally enters it against their will.
I'm sorry, with all due respect, you guys both need to look up the term violent. That's not a violent crime. I've asked you again. What violent crimes have been committed there?
Yeah, it's all in opinions. And opinions aren't.
I ask you again. I'm asking you your opinion. What happened that was a violent crime according to the law?
They're taking over a neighborhood.
That's not a violent crime. You have to physically.
Violence.
Excuse me.
It doesn't have to be physical violence, Brian.
Okay,
it can be threatening violence.
So who specifically threatened violence on somebody?
They threatened violence on the police precinct to burn it down, and that's why they were able to take over the neighborhood.
Okay. But
since then, and a lot of the reports you've seen have been during the day, and the explanation that Jack Posobiec actually put out about 2 hours ago said that during the day it is kind of like that. It is kind of a music festival atmosphere. It's a fair. There's a community garden, which is not even. I mean, I've seen it. It's awful. But at night, everything changes. At night, reporters are consistently asked to shut their cameras off. At night, the whole entire atmosphere changes, and that's what the caller's referring to. That's what I'm referring to. And you're not seeing it because you're following specific news networks that don't follow what actually takes place at night.
So once again, that is absolutely not factually accurate.
Yes, it is.
I'll explain to you why you're 100% wrong in what you just said. CNN and MSNBC do have reporters there at night.
And one was attacked last night.
If I could just finish.
One CNN reporter was attacked last night.
If I could just finish. CNN and MSNBC have live shots and reporters that are there at night. All the local reporters are also doing stand-ups there at night. Yes, we had a situation where a Fox News reporter was harassed by one bad actor. The problem with people like Larry, and he can disagree with me, that's fine, I don't mind that, but the problem is you cannot paint all these people to be violent criminals. I'm sorry, you just can't. But the right wants to do that. Now, if your definition of violence, I suppose, is different than mine, okay? No buildings have been set on fire. Certainly graffiti. There's no question about that. But nobody has been physically injured to the point where they had to go to the hospital. Nobody has been physically harmed in that way. And if you have a few instances where that has happened, then why don't we call it out as such and don't label the entire group as a terrorist group or a violent group? Why don't we just say, you know what? There's a few bad actors there, no doubt, but the majority of those people are hippies who are smoking weed and giving people food and not harming anybody. I don't agree with what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that they are all violent criminals. Can we at least agree on that?
See, Ryan, on that point, I agree with you. But when did I ever say all of them are violent criminals?
You didn't say that, but a lot of the people on the right, like the Laura Ingrams, the Tucker Carlsons, and the doofuses like Wayne Allen Root, who say send all these people to Guantanamo Bay and lock up the key. I'm not saying you're saying that, sir, and I get your point. There very well might be a few cases of violence. I don't doubt that. All I'm saying is the majority of those people that are in there are not violent, and I think that's important to note. That's all. And by the way, for the record, Larry, as you know, even if they're not violent, I don't agree with what they're doing. I don't think it's right.
I've heard you say that.
Yeah,
I've heard you say that.
but I just don't want people to label them. And I'm not saying you did this. I just don't want people to label them as a terrorist group. Everyone out there. I just think it's harmful rhetoric. I don't agree with violence when it comes to anybody. So thank you for the phone call. I want to give out the number again.
Good call, Larry and Brian. Had they stuck with the name Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, calling them domestic terrorists would have been within reason, because they did make a threat to get in that particular place, and they're declaring themselves their own country within the United States, Brian.
Okay, let's give out that number again. 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 257-5396. Let's now go to Brady. Brady, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, Brian, how much is it going to cost me to send your butt to Chaz? I want you to leave this radio station and get the
I'll tell you
hell out
what.
of Vegas.
I'll tell you what. I'm glad you brought that up, because the $100 that you owe me on a bet that you made 6 months ago that you still haven't paid me, I would use that as a plane ticket. But since your broke ass is so dishonest, besides being a racist, you also can now add being – but yeah, you can laugh all you want to, Klan man. Besides being a racist, yeah. Besides, you heard of the Metallica song "Sandman"? You're Klan man. I'll write a song about you. Okay. Besides being a racist, now we can now add a deadbeat to the list of characterizations for you. Don't okay, Brian. Me. You owe me $100. You said 6 months ago that we had a bet live on the radio that you thought that Schiff was going to be in jail. Schiff is not in jail. You owe me $100. Pay up, you scumbag.
You know what? You know who you are? You're the Joan Buyer of –
All right. Goodbye, idiot. Goodbye, idiot.
Hey, good call, Brady.
Yeah, great call. 702-257-5396 is the number to call.
Again, we've been out of the station for 3 months, so I still maintain there's a very slim chance that a $100 check is waiting for you on your desk when you get back, Brian.
Yeah, and it'll be made out.
Well, the question is, when are we getting back?
Yeah, there'll be a white cape and like
At
an
this
image
point, we're looking at March 2021, maybe.
Yeah.
Beasley should just forward our.
They
Yeah,
should.
Because I actually ordered some books, and I'm wondering if those have come yet.
All right, let's give out that number again, 702-257-5396. We're talking about the Chaz, whatever it's called, the Chop, whatever they're calling it now.
It's called the Chop now, Brian.
All right.
They're no longer their own country. By the way, had they stayed, and I'm going to stick with this, but had they stayed their own country, Trump wouldn't even have had to enact the Insurrection Act to go and take care of it.
Number to call.
Because they're a foreign entity at that point.
Number call 257-5396. Let's go to Bob. Bob, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Bob?
Bob, go ahead. You're next on the Vegas Take.
Okay, this is a little bit different subject. Sisolak is ruining the state. Now he's ruining the casinos. Why do the protesters get to pick where they protest in front of the Bellagio fountains? I imagine they need a permit. Why not give them a permit at 12 in the afternoon to protest from Russell?
Exactly. I 100% agree with that. 100%
he's
agree.
ridiculous. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He has no clue. The governor has no idea what he's doing. When these protests are affecting commerce and they're affecting businesses on the Las Vegas Strip, they should either have permits or they should not be able to do it. You should say, hey, when you are protesting on the Las Vegas Strip, you are affecting all of these businesses.
Okay, so let me respond.
Now we're talking about possibly having masks as a requirement in every single casino in the state of Nevada. But that conversation is not being had with all these protesters.
We can talk about
it's a major double standard, and I am disgusted at how poorly Governor Steve Sisolak has handled all this.
So here's where everyone that is talking right now, including the caller and JD, in my personal opinion, have zero credibility. Here's why. You're going to bash Steve Sisolak, and I'm talking to you, caller, as well. And you're going to say Steve Sisolak has absolutely no idea what he's doing.
Zero.
Okay, well, clearly, that's what you just said. But yet, when it comes to Donald Trump, he's doing a wonderful job.
He's doing an exceptional
job.
job.
All right, then you have no credibility.
No, I have all the credibility in the world.
Zero
Brian.
credibility.
Of course I do.
No, you don't.
Just and your personal opinion.
You're right.
Because you hate Donald
Trump's
Trump.
doing a great job.
Because
You're
you
right.
literally need
He's done a great job.
a medication called Trump derangement
And you
syndrome
have Trump
pills.
fellatio
I don't
syndrome.
at all, Brian.
You wear the knee
I just
pads.
know that he does a great
All right.
job.
Okay, right.
And you
But
hate him.
Sisolak, all right.
You hate him because of who he was before he was president. Because you
Right.
can't be that person. Because deep down you would love to be a guy like Donald Trump.
Okay, well,
that's why you hate
okay,
him. But that's fine.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to call you a moron for making a statement like that. Okay, you're a complete moron for saying
I am
that.
not a moron at all,
Okay, well,
Brian.
here's why I think that statement is moronic and idiotic, and here's why. No, JD, I don't want to be spoon-fed my whole life. Let me tell you something.
He
Hold
wasn't
on.
spoon-fed.
Okay,
he was,
if I can
well,
talk
I'm gonna
for
stop,
10
well, I'm going to
seconds.
stop you there.
You're just going to interrupt me.
He started his.
So you're going to say idiotic things, and then you're just going to interrupt
started
me when I respond. Okay,
with
go
his,
ahead,
with
JD.
his father when he
Go
was
ahead.
8 years old.
Go ahead, defend him.
He
Go
was
ahead.
we was
Defend
with his
life.
father in his
Yep.
company for almost
Yep.
20 years.
Okay.
And then when he was in his late 20s,
Yep.
he was given
A $400
ownership
million company.
over
Right.
the company that he had
Okay.
worked for a long
So,
time.
it-
It was
all right.
it wasn't a situation where
Okay.
Donald Trump's
Sure,
dad
sure.
just said, "Hey, Donald,
All right.
take this over." No,
Okay. Thank
he
you
was
for-
he was groomed to take over that
Yep.
position. Now
Thank you
was he definitely born into a place of privilege? Of course. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but you can't say that he was just given that to him because he wasn't.
Okay, so let
he
me
worked,
know-
He worked for it and he learned the business before he did. Yeah, sorry.
If I could talk for more than 5 seconds, I would appreciate that. Thank you. I was going to make a lot of examples and instances why I would never want to beat Donald Trump. And yes, I started by saying he was spoon-fed as a baby. He was given a $400 million company. I was also going to say I never want to marry somebody that accuses me of rape. I don't want that to happen to me. I certainly don't want to be the man that has over 25 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. I don't want to be that man. I don't want to be the man that is accused of being a racist time and time again based on the history of him and his father. And you could just look up some of those court cases if you don't believe me. I don't want to be a man with several ex-wives. I don't want to be a man that sets a horrible precedence in attacking anybody that disagrees with him. I don't want to be that man who attacks POWs, attacks women based on looks. I don't want to attack people for their service. And I don't want to be known as the man who dodged the military and lied and said he had bone spurs. Maybe the way he was walking on the stage over the weekend. Maybe it was his bone spurs. I don't know. So no, JD, I'm not jealous, and I don't want to beat Donald Trump because he's a piece of garbage. Let's get back to the phone calls at 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Richard. Richard, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Richard?
Hi. Yeah. Basically, I just wanted to give you another perspective on the area in Seattle.
Yes, sir.
Capitol Hill area. I'm from that general area, grew up as a hippie in that area. That's been hippie central for over 50 years.
Yep.
I mean, it's just full of nonviolent people.
I agree. I live there as well. I agree.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That's
yeah.
one thing. And the other was JD seems to be a very thoughtful, reasonable man, and I could never figure out why he liked Donald. I realized he hadn't had 35 years of having to listen to this fucking, excuse me.
Whoa.
That's all right, Richard.
Watch language.
That's
Watch
okay.
language, Richard.
Listen to this idiot long before he was ever considered a presidential candidate. I mean, it's not derangement syndrome. I know him. I know what he is. I can't stand him. But that's
Listen, when
all I've
people
got to say.
when people
That's fine. You don't have to stand him. But my issue, and the reason I mentioned that to Brian, is because Brian does not give him credit for anything that he does, ever. He never gives him credit for anything positive that Donald Trump does.
I don't tend to say positive things about horrible people.
That's because he feels a certain way about him as a human being, but that doesn't change the fact that he's doing some positive things. And when you can't give someone, I mean, I think Steve Sisolak is a pretty god-awful human being myself. I think he's a horrendous governor, but I gave him credit when he actually deployed the National Guard the day before Shane Michelonis was shot. By the way, I actually gave him credit for that.
I've never heard you say one positive thing about Barack Obama.
I gave Steve Sisolak. We never talk about Barack Obama.
We've brought up Barack Obama.
No,
plenty of times
we
on the show.
rarely have conversations about
Well, I've never
Barack
heard you say
Obama.
one positive thing about him.
Right.
Not once.
We talk about Trump every day. If we talked about Obama every single day, I would say probably 5 or 6 positive things a week.
If you want
if you want to start talking about Barack Obama every single day, and you want to make that weak generalization, which is extremely weak, by the way.
Well, I think you do that every day.
If we talk about Barack Obama every single day, I promise you, I will say 200% times more positive things about Barack Obama than you would ever say about Donald Trump.
If you want to say
I don't think Obama was that bad of a guy.
Okay, if I could talk. If you want to say that I have Trump derangement syndrome and do what the right-wing wackos do, that's on you, and I will just turn it on you like I always do with idiots who make statements like that.
You can't turn it on me, Brian. It's not similar.
If I could just finish without being interrupted again, I will respond by saying you have Trump fellatio syndrome. You go down on the president every single day. You wear the Donald Trump knee pads. You kiss his ass. And anytime anybody criticizes him for anything, you defend the idiot.
Which is not true at all.
Okay. Yes,
I have gone out of my way to not defend Donald Trump on many occasions.
Let's get back to
But I do give him credit when credit is due.
All right,
absolutely.
You're very critical of the president. All right, 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you're next on the Vegas take.
Hey, what's up, David?
Oh, hey, guys. I was calling in, but JD, you kind of made my point that I was going to make, and that is that, you know, as long as these guys declare themselves as being, quote-unquote, autonomous and put up signs that say you are now leaving the United States, that makes them insurrectionists.
Right,
period.
exactly.
It's end of story, and you can send in the military immediately. You need no cause. If you're not entering U.S. soil anymore, they're insurrectionists, and by that definition, that's why they changed the name.
All right,
Otherwise,
so
you're
let me,
right.
and that's why. Now, if these autonomous zones started picking up all over the country, they would be taken out almost immediately. But the only reason why the military hasn't gone in and done their business and probably deported everyone there is because this is so embarrassing for the United States and so good for Donald Trump, being able to see what radical thinking can actually create. That's why this still exists, David.
All right, so you guys could have your love fest here, but I would say hold on.
Hold on a second.
Hold on. No. I haven't had a chance to respond to what you said, so I'll keep you on the line, sir. As far as what JD's comments, this is embarrassing for the United States. I'll tell you what's embarrassing for the United States. 2 words: Donald Trump. I'll go on to say this, sir. I agree with what you just said. Peaceful idiots. I think that is a very fair characterization of who they are. I think they're peaceful idiots. In fact, I've called them idiots. I've never on this show defended what they are doing. But the right wing, I haven't, and I wouldn't do that.
I know you haven't. I wasn't being.
That's fair.
Anyway,
I understand. Understood. I'm not a liberal, and I'm not saying you called me one. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. What I am is I try to be honest with my opinions. Some people are going to agree. Some people are going to disagree. These people are not violent criminals. They're not terrorists. Now, is there a possibility that there might be a few bad actors there? Sure, that's certainly a possibility, sir. But what I am telling you is that there are, for example, Rashard Brooks, the guy who was shot and killed in Atlanta, that's a violent criminal. That guy deserved to get shot. These people in Seattle do not deserve to get shot. They're not violent criminals. They don't deserve to spend the rest of their lives in jail. They are committing crimes.
Right, and I totally agree. The only thing is, for example, I live in Summerlin. If people in Summerlin suddenly said, hey, you know what? We pay for this stuff, and now we don't want to be part of the United States anymore. Well, I still want to be part of the United States, so I get a vote too. So I don't think everybody in that 6-block zone is saying, hey, I don't want to be part of the United States anymore, and yet somehow the small majority hijack that because it gets on the news and it's big news, and they want to run with it.
Right.
I agree with that. Listen, they're idiots. They're stupid. As you characterize them as, they're peaceful idiots, but they're not serious violent criminals.
I'll compromise and say 80-20. 80-20 peaceful idiots and 20% have bad intentions. And in some case, and based on what's been happening on various videos, there are some that would like to get involved in some nefarious acts.
And I would also just say, and going back to our reporter that we had at the top of the hour, guys, is that this is a unique situation because it's Seattle and it's a ultra liberal area. And as Hannah Scott from Cairo Radio said, these idiots, these peaceful idiots, as Brian calls them, are getting aided by the local businesses there and by their local government. So this is a unique situation. I don't think it would happen in Summerlin because they wouldn't have the support.
Listen, we just, again, I keep saying this over and over again. You know what? If people don't agree with me, that's fine. We can't agree on everything. Why can't we just be fair about this? About any issue that's politics involved. Why can't we just be fair about this? Like the guy who just called in, who I agree with for the most part. I'm not sure what he disagreed with me on. They're peaceful idiots. Could there be a few bad actors that are violent? Sure, it's possible. That could be anywhere. You could go to a supermarket. There could be a couple violent people in there. But what they're doing is wrong. I don't agree with no police zone anywhere in the country. I've been very consistent on that. They're wrong. Go in there with rubber bullets. Go in there with gas. Force them to leave. And if they still refuse to leave, then arrest them. And it's done. I don't like the way the mayor of Seattle has handled this. I don't like the way the police have handled this. It's wrong. But you know what else is wrong? Calling these people violent terrorists, comparing them to people that behead people in the Middle East. They're not violent terrorists. They're not going to Guantanamo Bay, throw the key away. They're not spending the rest of their lives in jail. It's absurd. Now, if they kill somebody or something violent happens, that's a different story. But I'm talking about the majority of these people who are in that Chaz area. They're not violent criminals.
It's called the CHOP.
CHOP, Chaz, peaceful idiots, I'll call it. The peaceful idiot protest. That's what I'll call it.